Hey, welcome back. So this is episode 2 of the cutting and machine work when it comes to our video series. So today I want to talk about the Silca. We're going to talk about like what this can do, what it can't do, and then kind of transition into the Gymkana, which is going to be our second like edge cutter per se. So let's go ahead and get started. I have some keys kind of laid out so we can kind of see what the machine can do and what it can't do. And then we'll kind of go from there. And again, we'll kind of open up for Q&A. So if you're on the Zoom meeting, you can ask questions, or if you're not sure, you can ask questions. I'll have my email below in the description so you can ask questions, and then we can help diagnose your situation with the Silca Speed or any other edge cutter like that. So let's kind of jump into that, and then also I will have YouTube videos down below for you. So now looking at what the Silca or an edge cutting machine can do, let's look at some various keys. So we have like a Ford, a Chevy, GM, a Toyota, an old school, one side, an ATV key, a Honda. This would be like a Kia or a Hyundai, or you can count it as a Lexus. And then the new type of Ford. It's like a 2022, 2021 flip key option or insert. So let's kind of take some looks at these. Let's explain what the machine does. So when you look at this, see how it's an edge cut? It's cut on the edge, hence the name. And then if we look at a Honda, it's cut on the edge. You still have that profile. See how there's that profile? So you technically can't cut on the edge. And if you look on here, how would that machine cut that? So we want to kind of be able to look and see what type of keys the customer has and what type of machine works the best for that. So let's go ahead and jump over to the machine and kind of see how we can put the keys in and kind of explain how it works and what to listen for. So this is going to be the Silca Speed. So let's go ahead and look. We have our jaws. We have A, D, C, and B. And if you look, there's all different grooves, and we use just a basic spacer for the tip length. So if you watch the videos from Silca, they'll explain like how to cut house keys when it comes to this flap. Pretty simple, but let's go ahead and jump into this. So we have our calibration tool. I like to tell people right to the height. So it's going to raise and make that distance between the cutting wheel and the key blade. Left, lower. So it's going to bring the blade closer and closer. It's not actually moving the blade. It's having the spacer press up against here, and then it's going to adjust. So you're able to cut evenly. On the back side, you're going to have the power switch here, the power plug, the fuse is underneath there, and a power switch on top. You don't really need to worry about that. Pretty simple. Down here, a tray to pull out and get your chips out. I have videos on there, and also how to change the power belt. But the main thing is, let's go ahead and look. So we have this cutting wheel. So if we look at a Ford key, if we put the key in there, it's able to cut, makes that cutting noise. It's able to cut along that edge. That makes sense, right? So it's cutting along the edge. If we look at, like, say, that GM Chevy key, it cuts along the edge. We also look at the tracer side, and it's able to trace along the edge, and you can take the customer's key here, the new key here, and you can make a duplicate and go across and cut. If we look at a Toyota, there's a lot of little details. I'm not a fan of using the Silca because Toyota, if it's worn, you just make a worn copy. It's not ideal. That's why you want to use the Gymkana. That's where we have the segue. Using a key like this, we can cut this on the Silca. I'll show you. Having a key like this, we can cut this, even though it's different, but it's still an edge cut key, so understand that. Cool. Now when you look at a key like this, how would we cut the Honda on there? It wouldn't. You would destroy that rib, or whatever you want to call it. That just wouldn't be ideal, so it's not going to work. Same thing for our high security key, like a Lexus, a Kia, or a Hyundai. It just wouldn't work. You can't get in there. I know it may sound redundant, but you want to know what your machines are capable of and what you're capable of. And again, how would that get in there? It's just not going to. Something like this would be like the Keyline 303 or the Gymkana. So cool. Let's go ahead and look at how we can set the keys and what to look for when it comes to making sure the key is correct. Okay, so let's jump into this, and I'm going to show you all the jaws. But let's just say a customer has like an old Ford key, and we're going to make a new key for them. What we're going to do is use the tracer side to trace this, and then we're going to use this side to cut, obviously. But let's go ahead and look at the placement. So we want to look at how the shelf is, how it rests on here. So if we tighten it, it's nice and secure. But we also need to make sure we have a uniform depth this direction. So what we want to do is, instead of having it open up all the way and it can slip down there and like get messy, we want to rest on that ledge. So if we make it snug, so I can fit the key in there, it rests on that lip, that edge, and I can slide it forward. So that's step one, find that edge. Step two, put the spacer in and press in. And you want to use your index finger and press and follow through. You want to follow through. I want to aim and put pressure to here. So when I tighten, it's good. The reason why is a lot of times people hold the key head, the remote head like so. They put the spacer in there, and this is exaggeration. They tighten like that. See how it's way off? You can even see that shadow. You can see that shadow where it's off. So that's where you want to take time. So you want to make a good foundation. So you want to slide, spacer, forward, push through, tighten. You want to do this for the same key. And when you do it fast enough, it looks really fast and you're missing steps, but you're not. It's just very efficient. So the keys are in there. We want to do a wiggle test. About 6 months, 7 months after cutting, you're good and you can do this by eye. But when you're training and you're learning, you want to lead by example. So keys are in, put that in there and we wiggle. Wiggle, no wiggle, put in here, wiggle. So now we know same depth, same orientation to the tip. And we're going to take this and we're going to look. It's touching both of the key blades, and if I slide, it's flat and flat. So that means the keys are in the same exact orientation. So when I go to cut, it's going to make a duplicate, one-to-one copy on this, as long as I calibrate correctly. Cool. So I don't want to damage this new inventory or cut it, so I'm going to go ahead and take this out. I'm going to use other keys. So we have our test keys. I use these over and over basically to cut and just get that hearing of how to set it. So I'm going to put this key in there, slide, press, tighten, grab that, slide, press, tighten, wiggle test, flap test. It's good. Pause. Now look at the blades are different lengths, but they're still forward key. This is just my test key. So what I want to do is I want to focus on that noise. If I turn to the right, I'm using pressure on my right hand. I turn to the right. See how the blade is getting farther away from the key? Yes. Now if I go to the left to lower, see how it's getting closer and closer? And then the spacer is getting retracted. It's not even touching now. Once you understand that, it makes more sense. So let's go ahead and get it close. So you want to turn it on and you're going to listen. So it's not touching right now. Keep your fingers away. Don't get your fingers close. Wear safety glasses too. So I'm going to lower very slowly. Don't do that because you're going to damage it. So I'm going to reset. Now I'm going to lower. Now I want you to listen for the noise when it comes to the one-to-one calibration. So I'm going to just barely, incrementally, just barely turning. A little more, but see, it's not touching. It's not touching. So I'm going to go a little more. Hear how it's barely touching? That's what we want. Barely touching. So when I go down, cool. I want to barely hear a touch. If it's too grindy at the beginning, you're cutting too deep. It's dangerous. If it's not touching, then you're not cutting. So what you want to do is really focus on making it 1-to-1 going through. Let's get a better angle. So when we're cutting, if we look at the tracer side, we want to cut, and we want to look only here. We can't really see here because there's that shield and we're wearing our safety glasses, but we want to look here. We want to power with our right hand, control with our left hand, but we want to actively go up and down on this teeth and control it. And at the end, we don't want to slip off like that, because it's just, one, it's going to shock you and jar you. So what you want to do is you want to go down and pay attention, up and down. So control, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong. Go to the apex, slide down, back up, and then backtrack so you get every nook and cranny. That's what you want to do. That's when it comes down to cutting those edge keys. Now let's go look at the jaws, and again, I will have videos down below in the description. Okay, so let's look at our keys. So the Silca or edge cutters, majority can cut a whole bunch of keys, including house keys. I personally will not do house keys because my time is valuable, and I just send people to go to Home Depot or Walmart for those. But it's your own prerogative. If you want to do that, great, more power to you. Everyone has those needs. So let's kind of go through and look and see how do we do this. They're all different keys, but the jaws will work. So if we look at another forward key, we want to put this on the A jaw. We would use that shelf, line it forward. Cool, and we can check. That's correct. If we look at a key with very small teeth, see how they're very low and small? If I put this in the A jaw, it squishes those teeth and it can pop out. But if I look at this rib and I look at how the jaws work, I can loosen, I can go to D, and I can slide down. And there's a rib on this side, flat on this side, and I can get the correct orientation, slide it forward, and then flap test, cool. And then if I pull this up, I'm able to get all the nooks and crannies of that. So that's going to be useful for some of those old worn keys, or some of those old like vehicle keys, like the 2000s, Chevys, Corvettes, things like that. Now let's look at the next one. So if we look at a key like this is like an 80s, 70s series, like Chevy, Camaro, things like that. Only one side's cut. So obviously you don't look for the shelf. Turn it to the C jaw. How do we cut this? Well, we need to flip this over to match what theirs is cut. This part would be cut. So I'm going to tighten. And again, there's this rib on this side that lines up in there. So I'm going to slide that in, line it up, and again, slide test. The same concept. So it's sliding, it's locked in place. I'm going to put the spacer in, tighten. Cool. Now, like for a house key, they'll say line it up like that on that notch to make sure they're the same depth instead of using the spacer. But cool. So now I can again cut that key. Now, if we're looking at, say, like an ATV key, it's going to be a little different. This would be like an ATV key. This is an ATV key, or like an RV key. The very short, stubby ones. You really don't have that material. So if you go to the B jaw, you have this shelf that stops it from going that depth. So if I open it all the way, it doesn't drop down all the way. and it can also grab onto the back here. So I'm going to rest it on there, tighten, same concept. Cool. So now I can cut an ATV key or an RV key. So just by doing that, we can utilize the A jaw, the D jaw. This is like 95% of all your keys, like 3%, 1%, and 1%. So now your machine is able to do that. Make sure you match DD, CC, BB, AA. Cool. Make sure you match, otherwise your placement's going to be off and you're going to make a miscut. So make sure you understand how those work, and now you understand how to do your Silcas. Now if we look at the Toyotas, if we try to cut a Toyota on here, if we look, we're going to see there's a lot of different grooves. It's a 10 pin, so it's going to be very detailed. Now if this key is worn, we're going to make a duplicate of another worn key. That's only for certain instances, but it's not going to be helpful. When this key's worn, it's not going to work in the door, or it can even fall at the ignition, and it's just a hot mess. That's where we want to use the Gymkana to decode that. So for edge cut keys, for like the Subarus, like the G blades, and the Toyotas, like the turn keys like this, I will use them in the Gymkana just because it's going to be a better suit for that. So let's go ahead and kind of transition into that. So we're going to cut a Toyota key. We'll go to admin, and we're going to look at the vehicle. And let's just say this is a Toyota Camry, even though it's not. Let's just say it is. And there's a lot of year ranges. So ideally this is going to be a new type. So this would be like a 12 to 21 maybe. We want to look for the bigger year range. So we want to click on that. Hit next. And decode. Now the key blade is going to look like that. Forward, we slide the key in to U1. And the cool thing is, if we look at how this works, if I have it at an angle, it's a bad example, don't do it like that. But if I tighten, it straightens out, so it pinches and it squishes to lock it in place. So if you're having trouble with like the Silca, this does it for you. As long as you can count, you're good. As long as you can get the right year range, you're good. And then it's going to go through and have the tracer touch on the side, and it's going to start cutting, and then you're done. So now when we're looking at all these keys or all these options, we're going to see we have 2002 to 18, the valet key, master key, some old keys. So if we look at this one, oh, so that's going to have a shoulder. That's going to be totally different. That's going to be like a really stubby key. That's the wrong key. This is where you want to know the correct make, model, and year for your vehicle. Otherwise, you're going to get the wrong thing. This is like for emergency key. If we look at that, totally different. That's going to be like a Lexus type insert. So for here, if we look at this one, 2012 to 22, let's just see. Whoop, nope. See how it's totally different? So we want to understand how to use this machine. So as far as edge cuts, we want to do the Silca, but for Toyotas, we want to use the Gymkana. That's just my opinion. Well, I hope that makes sense when it comes to what the Silca can do with the different jaws. And again, I will have videos related that I made in the past on the same channel relating to the different jaws, and I have one where I kind of take apart the whole jaw and I show like a better perspective so you can see the different, like the mounting points. It's just another like 15-minute video. I just don't have time for this, but that's like your after hours homework. Go ahead and watch out that video, and then I have other videos on how to cut like some of those vac keys for Corvette and other ones where I use the different jaws. So now you understand how to use the Silca much better, and then how we transition into the world of the Gymkana. So the next video is going to be the Gymkana when it comes to the year range, and also how to use that, and also maintenance, calibration, all those different things. So now we're going to transition into more meat and potatoes and then at the end we're going to jump into this, and then we're going to go back into like how to problem solve with the Gymkana. So each class or each video is going to teach you more and more. And again, if you have any questions, my email will be in the description below. Take a picture of what you're working with, email me, and I can help you explain or whatnot, and we can chit chat and hopefully get a better understanding of how to use your machine, my machine, stuff like that. And again, other than that, have a great day, and I will see you all next time on the next video. So see ya, have fun, bye.